Selwyn here from WynnStrength.com, bringing you the second day of the 7th week of the Darkhorse Training program by Brian Alsruhe. Like usual, I'll leave links below for Brian Alsruhe's original video where he explains the program and goes over all the details that you need if you want to do the program by yourself, as well as links to the Lift Vault website where they've taken all the information and placed it into a free Google Sheet so you can do the program at home and don't have to worry about all that Excel wizardry. So second day brings us into our third and final wave. First week of the third and final wave with upper body pushing and pulling today. We introduced some brand new movements that we haven't done in the past, the previous two phases. So let's see where we go. So the first new movement is weighted neutral grip pull-ups, where instead of using a standard overhand or underhand grip, we're actually going closer with a neutral grip. Just a bit more variety. I find that the neutral grip kind of allows me to do either more reps or more weights, just because of the way it aligns the shoulders and the arms. You can kind of get that extra bicep activation as well as a decreased range of motion almost. Basically because you're going to hit your head into the pull-up bar if you pull up any higher. I kind of go one side and the other, but for the most part you are decreasing that range of motion slightly just because of the way it works. If you do have the neutral pull-up grips at the gym, they're also great too, obviously, and you kind of have that similar range of motion as a regular pull-up. But for the most part, similar to a T-bar row, where you do have that decreased range of motion because you are pulling in closer to the body, you've brought in that grip. I find that just personally, it feels a little easier on the elbows. Not to say that the pull-ups hurt my elbows or anything like that. I just feel like I can get out a couple more reps for the neutral grip pull-up for some reason. Might be just because of that leverage advantages for my own body mechanics, whatever the case may be. But it is a good variation. I'm a fan of the neutral grip pull-ups, and again, it's not better or worse than a regular pull-up. It's just another variety, and you can activate different lat muscles in different parts of the bicep if that's what you need to do and if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, just keep doing the regular pull-ups as you normally would. The next variety brings us to our close grip bench press, and what you'll notice is because I've already brought in the grip to a medium style grip because of the shoulder issues and the elbow issues that I've been facing, the difference between the close and the medium grip bench press for me aren't that much. It's probably an inch or two difference, not that drastic when you compare to, say, a powerlifting competition style bench press where you're wanting to take advantage of the decreased range of motion and the wider grip that allows. There's going to be quite a difference between the wide grip and a close grip bench press rather than a medium style shoulder width grip to a close grip bench press. There does become a point where it doesn't make sense to bring the grip in any closer just because of the way the wrist and that works, especially if you're using a straight bar. If you have a Swiss bar or an angled bar where the lines are parallel rather than a straight bar, you can get away with coming in a lot closer with that grip. But because of the way your wrists work, it's going to be really hard to push up a weight like that. You'll find the sticking point where you need to not come in as far. So I would suggest make small little changes, bringing the grip in. My index finger goes right where the smooth and the knurling touches, and that's kind of a nice balance of where it's a good mix between getting close but not too close where it's starting to affect your wrist, because that's, again, longevity with the lifts. If it hurts, don't do it. It's pretty much that simple. I find with the close grip bench press I can push out a tiny bit more with reps than the middle grip, and that's because I think it's probably something to do with my regular grip bench press form. But with the elbows tucked, I find my lats are kind of helping push my triceps back up in that movement at the bottom of the bench press. Just because of how close my elbows are to my torso and my arms coming down, my triceps kind of bump up against my lats, which helps me push up that weight. Oh, that's what I felt. We did hit a top set, two top sets at 295 actually. We wanted to do 6 rounds of heavy singles today. Unfortunately, I did fail on the third attempt of the 295. It just kind of didn't go anywhere. And I just bailed from there. I didn't bother doing 6 sets, so that was really just 4 sets of a heavy single with our top 2 sets at 295. Usually when I fail a weight, I'm not a big fan of trying to reattempt it, just because I know that my body's already hit past that RPE 10, and for the most part, dropping that weight a little bit isn't that productive anymore for me personally. I find that even when I drop the weight significantly, it just does feel quite hard, just because we did push that body up to that edge there, and I think we've kind of got enough training stimulus there. But your mileage may vary. Kind of take it in as more data points, kind of learn your body, learn how it reacts to failures. I notice when I do fail, I'm not as strong in the subsequent lifts, even when the weight has decreased significantly. So with that being said, we just stopped it there at the 5th rep, 5th and final fail. Then we moved on to some bird dogs and some kettlebell swings. Not a big fan of the bird dogs. I don't really see the purpose of them. I can't really feel what's happening there. I'll probably have to learn a bit more about what it is, but not a big fan of them. So I might change that up next week on this second day. From there, we moved on to the volume work. For the volume work, we did cut out the last 2 sets, so we only got 1 round of volume work in there, just because time constraints were kicking in. But we just did do some weighted grip pull-ups. We hit 40 pounds for reps of 5, which was great. Kind of punching up to my regular grip pull-up weighted variety weight limit that I'm using. So that's kind of a good thing to see. I am a fan of adding in these back movements. The one thing you notice with today, we brought in the pull-up and we brought in the bench press. We've kind of diverted away from doing pulling and pushing in the same plane, rather than doing 2 horizontal movements such as a bent over row. With the bench press, we're actually doing some close grip, as it were, close grip pull-ups with some close grip bench press. So we're kind of sticking within that same similarities with the agonist movement there, but 2 different planes. You're just playing around with them there. And again, not that big of a deal. We're just adding more variety to the mix. So then after that, we dropped the weight down. We did 235 for sets of 8. So I think that went well. Kind of a good recovery after not quite hitting the heavy single that I wanted to for the reps that I wanted to. So the volume kind of going well. Again, cutting out some volume towards the end of this program. I'm not too sure how detrimental of an effect that's going to be on my final results, but I am finding that the workouts are kind of stretching out a little bit as the weight gets heavier and my recovery isn't quite catching up to what it should be. But we'll see what happens at the end. I think it is better to kind of cut out a couple of sets here rather than skip out on the dynamic effort altogether. But we'll see what happens there. So for the dynamic effort movement, again, today we're moving on to the overhead press. We increased the weight actually, so 95 for the first 5 sets, and then I added on 5 pounds each side. So for the final 5 sets at 105, we stuck to the 10-minute time limit, which was great. I think the barbell was moving good, so we did see a 10-pound jump from previous weeks of the overhead press, which I think is an awesome result. Just because when we are getting to the overhead press, it is one of those lifts where we do see smaller changes across the lift when we're trying to judge improvements in the weights being used compared to, say, squat or a deadlift, where we're seeing more drastic jumps in weight. Because we are using more muscle mass, we are using a lot more force. Obviously, we have the whole body to hit the legs and whatnot. But when you do get into those smaller muscle groups, such as the bench and the overhead press, we're going to see smaller jumps in weight increases as we want to try and drive up those weights, just because of the way the lifts are working. I think one thing that went well for me today is the fact that my triceps weren't as fatigued as they were in previous weeks. We did drop down to heavy singles, and we did drop out 2 sets of volume work. So I did have some extra strength and assistance there with the triceps for the overhead press. So I think that helped a lot today, pushing up that dynamic effort work. So that wraps it up for the second day of the 7th week. I think all is going well. This will be the final phase, as I said earlier, so it'll be interesting to see how my results go after this. We're going to do some testing, see what happened, and check out those results. So hopefully these are all translating over to the bench press and overhead pressing, my numbers over there to improve. Like usual, I'll leave a playlist here for the rest of the Darkhorse program training vlog, so you can catch up on the results and stay tuned to see what happens at the end and my overall rating and review of the program. This has been Selwyn from WynnStrength, and remember, a better life through strength.